Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lords of the Night. With me, as always, is the Lord of Pennies, Satsu 2 cents.
What up, Dow?
And I'm your host, Scribe, the Lord of Punishment. Hello, chat. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a good Thursday. Terrific Thursday. It's been a very, 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 very busy day for me, but I'll save my rambling for a moment. Satsu, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I had a fairly decent day. Aaliyah said you're welcome for the first time today out of nowhere, which
Yay!
Threw me off because that wasn't one of the terms that I was actively teaching her because I'm still trying to get her to say thank you consistently. But yeah, that kind of shocked me a little bit. Otherwise, just laying down the foundation to get this move together.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much what I've been up to.
Cool. Before the stream, point curation, thank you so much. Fade in. Yes, the Kathleen Kennedy video of utter irony that got ratioed into absolute destruction, but then YouTube came along and deleted a whole bunch of views and changed and turned off all the ratings and comments and everything because she was extolling the virtues of women in film after she had outright fired Gina Carano under false pretense. So that was, yeah, it was something else. It was something else to witness. Thank you, Sean Newley. Thanks a lot in chat for completing my GoFundMe today. What? It did?
Did they?
Wow, congratulations. I looked at that yesterday and it was still like halfway there or something. Well, great.
Nice.
Good job, everybody. Thank you so much for helping them out. That's wonderful. Good. Congratulations, Sean. I'm utterly speechless for a second there. Let's see. What else does it say? Oh, yeah. I had a ridiculously busy day. So I had to do work. And then after work, I did TED Excellence, which turned out to be, well, I don't want to give it away. Let's just say it was a very significant event. For those of you that were with me, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for you, but it was a significant event. And then after that, I had about an hour of downtime or something. And then I had to do a 4-mile round trip walk to go to the dentist, go to the bank, go to the grocery store, and then come back home. And I got here just in time to set up the stream for tonight's show. And that was about an hour ago. And here I am. That was a very, very circuitous, busy day. And then just a few minutes ago, really great surprise. So there's a YouTuber, if you can believe it. His name is Benjamin Boyce. He's been around for several years now. And I guess he's most well known for his long series examining the events and the people and everything in regards to Evergreen State College. And if you're not aware of the saga of Evergreen State College, I'm not doing it justice by saying it is the CHOP of educational institutions. If you want to know everything that went on there and as how the events there are, I think, a warning as to what can happen when the worst aspects of social justice and intersectionality and everything can take hold in an institution like that. Go check out Benjamin Boyce's channel. He's got a long series covering the events and the implications of that. Anyway, he was doing a one-off sort of live stream just a few minutes ago. He started like, I don't know, maybe half hour ago. And I popped into the chat about 3 minutes after he started. And he announced that he was about 2 episodes away from being done with his Evergreen saga. And I made the comment just kind of jokingly. I've never actually spoken to Benjamin. At some point he followed me on Twitter, and I might have commented on a couple of his tweets. But anyway, I put a comment in there. I said, "How can Evergreen end? Isn't it like General Hospital? There's never an ending to the story." And I just, I commented a lot of streams and never expect anything from it at all. But within a minute or two, he pulled up my comment on the screen. As far as I can tell, the first comment of the whole show, and he says, "Hey, Scribe Light. Wow, hey, buddy. Hey, everybody, if you don't know, if you've been looking at Scribe Light, you should go to his channel, check it out. He does this long series on TED Talks. It's really interesting." I'm like, oh my God. That's so awesome. That makes me so happy. A little ego boost for the end of the day after a long, tiring day. But yeah, so anyway, turnabout is good, is fair play. So if you guys don't know about Benjamin Boyce, I put a link up in my Twitter a few minutes ago, and you should check him out. So that was fun. Although, I can't deny, and Satsu brought it up too, I'll be keeping an eye on my subscription numbers to see if maybe I get new watchers all of a sudden. That aside, I think that's all of the exciting stuff I have to talk about today. So with that, Monkey Dick, Jim Jones, movies, video games, hit that like button if you have not already. And I can see that many of you haven't. I don't know why. Don't you have any faith? And please share our stuff, share it far, wide, and sideways. Obviously, people pay attention occasionally when you share stuff that you like. Because if they like you and you like something, maybe they'll like it too. So whether it's us or another content creator that you appreciate, be sure to retweet their stuff, put it on Facebook, whatever, because YouTube certainly won't. And you guys are our best algorithm. Thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people in Lawton. Hello, Kyle. This is an ask for the chat. Last time I hosted and I was putting articles up on the screen, apparently that caused some buffering issues for people and or roboting on our end. So I am going to try it again tonight. If it continues to robot, let us know in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on it. And if it does continue to cause that problem for whatever reason, I will cease doing that. I prefer to do so you guys can see what we're looking at, but I don't want to also screw up the show. So we'll start out with the biggest news of the day. I mean, when I saw this, I was absolutely blown away. Because who forgot to invite Chun-Li to the Mortal Kombat?
Wait.
Now, no, hold on, Satsu. Before you say a word, we have to investigate this dire crime of pop culture and video game to movie adaptation.
Is this real?
Shush, Satsu. This is Jezebel. This doesn't get any more serious. Hold on. Just hold your tongue, young man. Hold your tongue.
Can I at least have a link?
Oh, certainly. Now that I can do.
Okay.
I'll put that in the chat. Who forgot to invite Chun-Li to the Mortal Kombat? Cinema is back, baby, and in a big way. Forget the auteur films of award season when two people stand at the edge of a cliff somewhere in Great Britain, pining for each other but never finding a way to make their relationship work. There is a new Mortal Kombat hitting HBO Max, and life is fucking good. Scorsese is shaking in his oversized spectacles watching, probably for the 15th time, the trailer for the latest film version that brings to life the gore of the original video game. The trailer itself is worthy of at least 2 Oscars for its special effects and stunt coordination, specifically for the preview of a scene where Sub-Zero turns his enemy's blood into a knife. What? But being the astute film critic that I am, I immediately clocked a glaring error in the film. Where in all the realms is Chun-Li? If there is a battle for the fate of Earth, then don't we need all of the greatest warriors gathered, which would include Chun-Li and her spinning bird kick that can knock a man's head clean off? Sounds like a pretty big plot hole to me, and that the ultimate street fight is supposedly to be won by a ragtag team helmed by Sonya Blade. No offense to the Sonya stans. Absence of Chun-Li aside, the trailer is the dog's bollocks, a term I learned from watching The Bridge, also on HBO Max if you're into competition shows. And the extremely bloody action-packed film, which is a super realistic study on the cross-section of kung fu and elemental magic, will premiere on April 16th. Choose your fighter wisely. Update, 4:39 p.m. Jezebel has discovered the answer to our question about Chun-Li's erasure, and it is that Chun-Li is not a part of the Mortal Kombat Megaverse. Wow. Real professional journalism here, everyone.
How the fuck did I miss this?
Pinkola Driving 8 Man, thank you so much. Oh, this is going to make Blind Press die tomorrow. Man, I just about, my brain skipped a beat when I read that headline the first time. I was like, oh, what? So just in case you couldn't already tell, for those of you that don't know, Chun-Li is a character in the Street Fighter series, another video game that does involve fighting individuals and characters and such, but is a completely different game made by a completely different company in a completely different franchise. Now, if there were to be a crossover game between Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, that might be kind of cool, sort of, maybe. But elsewise, yeah, that question is to anyone who knows anything about video games or fighting games. I thought it was a joke at first. Honestly, I thought there was some like twist to that headline going into the article, like something like where's the style or where's the something. I don't know, but that wasn't it. No, this Shannon Melero, who wrote this, just has no knowledge of the subject she's writing about, which at Jezebel doesn't surprise me, but all the same, it was funny. Thank you, Shoehorn Aplenty, for the noob. Yes, indeed she is. Indeed she is. And thank you, Jaeger Pony. Mortal Kombat needs Shaq from Shaq Fu for more representation, of course. Weren't they going to like do a remake of Shaq Fu or something? I thought I heard that somewhere. But
yeah.
Thank you, Dark Resurrect. That made my brain discharge and reset. Yeah. So I just wanted to open the show with that one because I just thought that was just excellent. Now, I have watched the trailer to the movie involved. First and foremost, the trailer that you might find at that link, it is the Red Band trailer, so it is the gory, uncensored, violent one. I think they made many mistakes in that trailer. I mean, as most trailers do, they tend to give away a lot of the movie before you actually see the movie. The first 15 seconds of the trailer gives away an amazingly important plot point, I would think, that you'd want to save for people to actually see in the movie. So I'm not going to say what it is in case you don't want any spoilers, but I saw that I was kind of like, really? In the trailer? Otherwise, it is, as you might expect, it is a hyped up version of what you might have seen in the Mortal Kombat movie back in the 90s, except there is no holding back on the violence and the gore. The characters, for the most part, look well represented visually, except for Melina.
Yeah, Melina's she's black now, apparently. So.
Well, I wasn't so much of that, but I thought, again, it's like, for anybody that doesn't know the franchise, I thought, why isn't she wearing her mask first? Shouldn't that be like a big reveal at some point? That was part of the shock when that character originally came out. So
one would assume that would be the thing. Also, it doesn't look like she has, like, it looks like there's just blood on her mouth. Like, it doesn't look like she has her teeth or whatever, which...
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but I didn't see Johnny Cage, as far as I can tell. I assume he must be in there somewhere. And, so, I mean, it looks like a Mortal Kombat movie, and they really do have most of the major characters all represented. But I don't plan on rushing out to see it if I go out to see any movies, but at some point I'm probably sure I'll watch it. Anyway, I just wanted to open up with that story. Now, before I move on to the next story, anybody in the chat, was there any buffering, roboting?
No.
Whoa, you okay?
I hit my wedding ring on the desk. I was lifting up my arm.
Okay. All right, so I want to make sure. I thought you didn't hurt yourself. Anybody notice any roboting or anything? So not for me, says Dr. Keeve. No, says okay. I did, says Jezebel did. Oh, wait, no, you're talking about something else. Okay. Well then. Okay, that being said, let's move on to something more newsy-ish. Now, this story is actually from a couple of days ago, but I guess yesterday, I take it back, but I didn't notice it, and this is an amazing story, if true. Thank you, tall person. Hoyal just got home from work, and we'll watch in full later. Happy cow milked while flying in an airplane day. Yes, this is a thing. I will take your word for it. Okay, now, if I remember, I heard about this ostensibly from, I think, the radio or something. If I remember the details correctly, can you imagine being the luckiest person in the world? Let's find out. Citibank can't get back $500 million it wired by mistake, judge rules. After committing one of the biggest blunders in banking history, Citibank won't be allowed to recover the almost $500 million it accidentally wired to Revlon's lenders, a U.S. District Court judge ruled. Citibank, which was acting as Revlon's loan agent, meant to send about $8 million in interest payments to the cosmetic company's lenders. Instead, Citibank accidentally wired almost 100 times that amount including $175 million to a hedge fund. In all, Citi accidentally sent $900 million to Revlon's lenders. Some lenders did return the money, but others did not. Citibank filed a lawsuit in August seeking the return of its funds, but it still has not received $500 million from 10 investment advisory firms after the accidental transfer. The law usually punishes those who spend money accidentally deposited in their accounts. Accidental transfers are common in the digital age, and wires can be paid back instantly. A Pennsylvania couple faced felony charges after spending money accidentally deposited in their account. But New York law has exceptions to this rule, known as the discharge for value defense. If the beneficiary is entitled to the money and did not know it was accidentally wired, they can keep it. Let me read that again.
Yeah, okay.
If the beneficiary, so in this case, they meant to send money to these guys. They sent the wrong amount of money to these guys. But because they didn't know it was an accident, which doesn't make any sense to me, because if you were expecting $18 million and ended up with $500 million, I think you would realize something went wrong. But that's just me. If the beneficiary is entitled to the money and did not know it was accidentally wired, they can keep it. Revlon's lenders said they believed Citibank was wiring payments for a loan. After all, the money accidentally wired was the exact amount, quote, to the penny Citibank owed them, although the loan wasn't set to mature for quite some time. Quote, we are extremely pleased with Judge Furman's thoughtful, thorough, and detailed decision, said Benjamin Finestone, who represented two lenders, Brigade and HPS Investment Partners. The court ruled the lenders were justified in believing the payment was intentional. Citibank itself did not realize the magnitude of its mistake until nearly a day later. Quote, to believe that Citibank, one of the most sophisticated financial institutions in the world, had made a mistake that had never happened before to the tune of nearly $1 billion would have been borderline irrational, the court document said.
Yeah.
The judge's ruling used in internal chats between HPS employees as further proof the creditors had no idea the wiring was a mistake until after Citibank sent notices. In the chat, which was dated a day after the mistaken wiring, HPS employees joked about the error. Quote, I feel really bad for the person that fat-fingered a $900 million erroneous payment. Not a great career move. Quote, certainly looks like they'll be looking for new people for their ops group. Quote, how was work today, honey? It was okay, except I accidentally sent $900 million out to people who weren't supposed to have it. Quote, downside of work from home, maybe the dog hit the keyboard. The lenders cannot take the money and run. Since an appeal is a possibility, a temporary restraining order is still in effect. Quote, we strongly disagree with this decision and intend to appeal. We believe we are entitled to the funds and will continue to pursue a complete recovery of them, Citigroup said in a statement. The pandemic has hurt makeup brands like Revlon, shares of which are trading more than 40% lower from a year ago. $500 million free bucks.
Big oof. I'll tell you one thing. I will say this. Everybody who got that money, they better fucking hold on to it.
Yeah. Yeah, until the appeals are done.
Yes. Hold on to that shit just in case. Put
that in a separate escrow account somewhere and just lock it down until the appeals are completed. Because, otherwise. Let's see. Well, we have some actual international diplomatic news to talk about as well. Something that was brought up in the campaign. Close this stuff off. U.S. says it is willing to sit down for talks with Iran and other nations on nuclear deal. Yeah, because Iran has been such an honest and fair actor in the whole thing.
I would imagine that conversation is going to go, hey, Iran, you want to keep fucking us on this nuclear deal? Because it felt kind of good. And they're like, you know what? It did feel pretty good. Yeah, let's keep fucking you on that deal.
Yeah. The other nations involved in the deal have cited Iran as violating the terms of the deal. When Donald Trump pulled us out of that, everybody's like, "Oh my God!" It did this. It's like, look, if they're not keeping up to their end of the deal, why would we want to stay in it? It's a faux. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a paper tiger. It's an absolute falsehood to stay in a deal where one side's not keeping up to their end of the bargain. But yet you're supposed to keep into it anyway. I never understood why people were decrying Trump over pulling out of that deal, because it was nonsense. Iran was lying and cheating and still developing nuclear technology.
And then some people's rationale was like they weren't keeping up with the deal to begin with. But the reason Trump was wrong was because after he got out of it, then they really were no longer keeping up with it.
Right. It's like, well, now that we pulled out, I guess. Yeah. So it never made any sense to me. It's like, well, now we're not obligated to do anything anymore, except the fact that all the other nations were still part of the deal. And I remember talking about this a couple months ago. It's like, I was having an argument with somebody on Twitter. I forget who it was, but they were like, Iran doesn't have any reason to stick to it if Donald Trump's going to pull America out. And I'm like, well, they're still in the treaty with, France and Britain and all these other countries. So if they're reneging on the deal, they're not just reneging on it because Trump pulled out. They're lying to the people they also signed the deal with in these other countries. And I think the argument was, well, America represents such a big whatever that they're pulling out basically makes it null and void. And I'm like, well, okay. So if I make a deal with a sovereign nation that isn't America, and America decides to pull out of a deal that I've got with this other country, I can just ignore this other sovereign country and that makes it okay? Like, okay, so what I guess France and Britain and Germany or whatever, they don't matter? I'm sure they feel really good about that kind of thinking. Anyway, the Biden administration, in a significant move to jumpstart diplomacy, the Biden administration said Thursday that the U.S. is willing to sit down for talks with Tehran and other signatories to the Iran nuclear deal before either side has taken any tangible action to salvage or return to compliance with the agreement. Sorry, who has to return to compliance and who wasn't in compliance while the agreement was in effect?
Isn't that interesting the way that was phrased?
That's so bizarre. Now, it's so bizarre how they're spinning this.
Now, what do you think? What do you think the spin would be if Biden went in, started having these talks with other nations that are still in the agreement, and they're like, no, bro, do not fucking do this. They are not keeping up with it. Don't come back in here. What the fuck is Biden's excuse going to be?
I don't, well, they won't even mention that they're violating it. They will tramp it down. I can't imagine what their alternative is. Quote, the United States would accept an invitation from the European Union High Representative to attend a meeting of the P5+1 and Iran to discuss a diplomatic way forward on Iran's nuclear program, State Department spokesperson Ned Price said in a statement Thursday. The P5+1 refers to the permanent members of the UN Security Council, China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and Germany. Why did you mention Germany that way? Oh, is they're the +1? Why isn't it just the P6? I don't get that. It is a move to lay the groundwork for diplomacy that could eventually break the ongoing impasse between Washington and Tehran, both of whom have insisted the other must act first. I'm sorry, we were under an agreement for Tehran to not develop nuclear weapons in exchange for assistance from the countries on other things, which they were breaking the entire time. So it wasn't on us to act first. It was on them to prove that they had ceased development of nuclear weapons. The U.S. officials were careful to stress that their willingness to sit down with partners and Iran wasn't a concession or even the beginning of nuclear talks, but instead was simply the first diplomatic step to figure out how to begin discussing issues of substance. There's one issue of substance. Iran needs to stop developing nuclear weapons. They need to allow inspectors in full access to check out anything that might have to do with the development of nuclear weapons. And they have to allow for monitors to stay around to keep an eye on things. There's not really a room for negotiation here, and Iran has no leverage as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know what they're talking about here.
I mean, but leverage or not, the whole reason we were kind of wrapped up in that shit is because America basically bent over and said, right here, please. So who's to say that even without leverage, Biden won't just be like, okay, well, we'll just do whatever you guys say.
Quote, until we sit down and talk, nothing's going to happen. It doesn't mean that when we sit down and talk, we're going to succeed. Okay, how do you define success?
Well, first off, how do you even have that mindset? If you thought that leaving was a complete crime and that it was horrible to do, then how could you think that anything could go wrong with you joining back? What would be the issue? What would be your concern that Trump didn't have?
Yeah, but we do know that if we don't take that step, the situation is just going to go from bad to worse. What's worse than Iran never adhering to the agreement? I mean, aside from actually obtaining a nuclear bomb and using it, I don't know what you're talking about. Quote, it's a meaningful step, but we recognize it's just one of many that will have to be taken from all sides. Well, okay, you need to describe what success looks like. Okay, I don't know how to assess whatever this is unless you tell me what is success in this instance. Like getting back to a point where you're going to, why not just get back into the deal? Like Satsu said, if Trump pulling us out like that was a bad move, then why not just rejoin it like that?
Yeah.
You know, and if Iran says, you know what Iran would say, it's like, well, we're not going to trust that you're actually sincere about that until we get some more concessions and some more, financial. So, I mean, I don't know how you're going to negotiate from a position of leaving was a bad idea, but now we're going to baby step our way back into what? Iran's good graces?
Yeah. And they said that publicly and made a big thing about it in American media for quite some time. They were listening. They know what's going on.
Enrique Mora, Deputy Secretary General for Political Affairs of the European External Action Service, ooh, that sounds all very blockbuster, said on Twitter that the Iran nuclear deal, which the U.S. abandoned during the Trump administration, was, quote, at a critical moment. Quote, intense talks with all participants and the U.S. I am ready to invite them to an informal meeting to discuss a way forward, unquote, he said. Okay, and I'm not trying to be, overly acrimonious when I say this, but honestly, what does success look like? At least for this first step, like what if everything went perfectly in whatever informal talks they're going to do? What does success look like? What is the end goal here? How are you going to address the fact that we know through no uncertain terms that France knows, Germany knew, and the UK knew that Iran was reneging on their promises? And which is why we pulled out in the first place. Nobody seems to want to. Everybody wants to say that Trump made a mistake or did something terrible by pulling out. Nobody wants to actually examine why he pulled out of the deal. It is unclear if the Iranians would accept such an overture, okay, the officials told reporters Thursday, nor has a meeting been scheduled. It was one of several efforts the administration unveiled Thursday in an effort to lay the groundwork for diplomacy. Lay the groundwork for diplomacy. Okay. Saying that you're open to coming back to the thing is diplomacy. I don't know what that means. Groundwork for diplomacy.
It's just bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, an informal meeting is diplomacy. You ever hear of like backroom diplomacy, like how we resolved the Cuban Missile Crisis in a back room, telling the Russians we're going to take our missiles out of Turkey as long as you take the missiles out of Cuba, except we'll do it in like 6 months and we won't make a big deal out of it. Okay, anyway, CNN reported earlier Thursday that the Biden administration might send a signal that they were prepared to re-enter into a serious process with Iran and members of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the formal name for the Iran nuclear deal. But at that point, the details were still being worked out. Okay, the administration informed the UN Security Council that it was reversing the Trump administration's unilateral efforts to snap back U.S. sanctions on Iran. Snapback. Then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo claimed in September that the U.S. had reimposed all UN sanctions on Iran, despite no longer being a party to the nuclear deal, in an effort that was roundly rejected by other UN member states. Thank you, Dark Resurrect. My question is, why are we trying to get in the good graces of a country whose government has repeatedly called for the destruction of the U.S.? Yeah. If anybody has to make overtures in reestablishing this deal, it's Iran. The implication that somehow America needs to take gentle steps forward or something, it is insane to me. I'm just trying to, if you imagine America as an individual person, okay, let's just imagine these countries as like represented by people. Okay, you have somebody who is a lying bully who said that I'm going to stop being a lying bully if you guys, hold off on, taking my lunch money, you other bullies. And the other bully said, okay, we'll give you lunch money to stop being a bully. And then, of course, the bully goes around, keeps punching kids in the face. Okay, and so we back off and say, well, hell, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not helping you out, and walk away. Oh, but now we have to like, and he's still been punching people in the face the whole time. Even after we left, he's been punching people in the face. And now it's like, oh, somebody else is in charge. It's like, okay, we'll come back, but we're sorry that we did that thing. Well, he's still punching people in the face.
It's just so weird. Like, they're making it seem like we need to really like tread carefully and tiptoe and see if we can get back in their good graces.
Yeah.
Like,
the message should be, if Biden wants to seek getting back into this plan, the message should be Iran needs, like I said, Iran needs to cease their development of nuclear weapons and nuclear fuel. They need to allow the international nuclear inspectors back into their country, full access at any place that they say so, and allow monitors to be there to make sure that things are not going as they have been. And if they are fully open and transparent about what they're doing, if they turn over any materials or destroy anything, etc., if they actually make a show of good faith, then we will enter back into the deal and reduce the restrictions or the sanctions or anything else. It's not a matter of just starting out saying, oh, let's go back to zero again and pretend like nothing happened. That's not how this should go, but that's what it sounds like they're getting ready to do.
Yeah, I don't know, man. And to answer the question before, there are reasons to keep places like this on a short leash by, offering them some type of, incentive to not do the crazy shit that they're doing, because you don't want them to do that, and sometimes you have to put forth a little bit of effort to ensure that doesn't happen. I don't mean you need to kiss their ass, but I mean, as far as political shit goes, sometimes you do have to do that in order to keep them in check. Sometimes you gotta grease their palms a little bit. Mm-hmm. But that's just the nature of how things go. But prostrate ourselves to them and try to get into their good graces as if we were the ones in the wrong. Like, nah, that ain't happening.
Yeah. And again, I understand that this entire article is full of very vague whatevers, etc. U.S. says the moves are concessions to common sense. What does that mean? Sources had earlier indicated to CNN that as Tehran prepares to ban short-notice inspections of its nuclear sites, behind the scenes, Biden administration officials were making clear they were determined not to succumb to pressure to make imminent concessions or return too quickly to the agreement. Okay.
Why not?
All right. Yeah, exactly. Why not? Because if Trump pulling out was a bad move and staying in it when they weren't adhering to their own promises, why would we want to go in at all? Especially when they just said they're going to ban inspections of their nuclear sites. The senior State Department officials made clear Thursday evening that they do not see their openness to the EU-led talks as a concession or a reward of Tehran's escalatory moves. Quote, I'd say these are not concessions to Iran. These are concessions to common sense. What does that mean? I think we've seen what 4 years of maximum pressure and not talking to Iran have yielded: an accelerated Iranian nuclear program and a more aggressive Iranian posturing in the region. They just threw away any pretense is all they did when Trump pulled out of the deal.
Exactly. And that's what
all they did.
Dude, I was just about to say that their excuse is going to be because Trump pulled out, it's just making things worse. And so now we have to basically kiss their ass in order. Like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah. After Trump pulled out, they stopped pretending like they weren't doing anything. And everybody stopped pretending like they didn't know they weren't doing anything. Come on.
Whatever.
This is nonsense. Okay. And dwelled on that long enough. Let me see. Which one of these? I want to do at least one more here. Okay, how about this one real quick? Because in another sign of, I guess you get what you vote for, U.S. signals it is open to sending more troops to Iraq. Yeah, we go 4 years without starting any major wars, as far as I know. Not that is not to say that Trump did not take military actions. I am not saying that. But as far as like putting more troops at risk, the Pentagon opened the door to the possibility of sending more American troops to Iraq as part of a newly expanded NATO training mission to support Iraqi forces and ensure that ISIS does not rise again. Well, has it risen in the last 4 years?
They need to ensure and just make sure.
Okay. Quote, the U.S. is participating in the fourth generation process for NATO mission Iraq and will contribute its fair share to this important expanded mission. Are other countries contributing their fair share? Because I seem to remember there was a whole bunch of stuff where like we were propping up NATO more so than any other country in relative percentages. Anyway, Pentagon spokesperson Commander Jessica L. McNulty told CNN, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin spoke about the mission with his NATO counterparts during a meeting with defense ministers on Thursday. Such a move would be a reversal of the previous administration's policy, which reduced the number of troops in the country to 2,500 following former President Donald Trump's election defeat. The Biden administration is also weighing whether to stick to a May deadline to withdraw all troops from Afghanistan. If I were a betting man, and I'm not much of one, I would say that they're not going to stick to that deadline. That we will have troops in Afghanistan forever. At a press conference Thursday, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said the NATO mission would increase in size from 500 personnel to about 4,000. So are those 3,500 personnel extra going to be mostly American? The U.S. and its partners in the global coalition to defeat ISIS remain committed to ensuring the enduring defeat of ISIS. The enduring defeat. Either they're defeated or they're not. I don't know what to tell you. The enduring defeat. And the department looks forward to continued consultations with Iraq, NATO, and the global coalition going forward. Austin welcomed the expanded role of the NATO mission in Iraq. Yeah, expanded mostly by us, according to a readout of the discussions provided by the Pentagon. I love how they keep saying NATO when it's really majority U.S. People and supplies. Stoltenberg stressed the importance of the NATO mission to prevent the resurgence of ISIS. Not so long ago, ISIS controlled territory as big as the United Kingdom and roughly 8 million people. They have lost that control, Stoltenberg said. But ISIS is still there. ISIS still operates in Iraq, and we need to make sure they're not able to return. What do you mean return? They're already there. How can they? They don't have to return. They're already there. You just told us. And we also see some increase in attacks by ISIS, and that just highlights the importance of strengthening the Iraqi forces. You think sending in more Americans is going to increase or decrease ISIS attacks?
Let's see. People who love to kill Americans have more Americans to kill.
Yeah. Bringing attention to their cause, having more. I mean, let's be honest. And this isn't, I'm not even being hyperbolic. An attack on Americans that they can film and then spread around on social media is PR for the group and their cause. They broadcast and they filmed car bombings and everything else and spread that stuff around as recruitment videos, all during the Iraq War and onward. So I'm sure sending in more American troops is going to really, it'll cure it this time, guys. Anyway, I'm gonna stop news there. I had a couple other stories, but nothing that was necessarily earth-shattering that maybe not, maybe won't be covered by people who send us stories for MSS News. Speaking of which, everyone, it's MSS News time. So if you have news stories you'd like to see us read on the air, please send them to us via Twitter using the hashtag MSS News. Can't promise to get to them all. That might be because Twitter is not letting me see things right now. It says try again, try again. Okay, is it done now? I think it's done. All right. Let me try to get this story onto the tab here in the awkward way in which I do it. And again, guys, let us know if this causes any stuttering or buffering or roboting or anything else. Oh, God. Come on. Really? Every single time I have to do this. Okay. Officials in New Zealand City seeking owner of loose peacock. Check NBC. Found peacock. Is this your peacock? Our team were notified by the Newlands community who spotted it wandering around today. If it's your peacock or you know who it might belong to, give us a call so we can get it back home to roost. Okay, officials in New Zealand City. Ooh, that's Marilyn Monroe, I think. Uncensored vintage photos. Officials in New Zealand City are attempting to find the owner of an exotic bird after a peacock was found taking a stroll down a suburban road. The Wellington City Council said officials were alerted to a loose peacock in the Newlands area when onlookers snapped photos of the colorful wanderer and posted them to social media. You ever there's a children's book that I loved as a kid called "Make Way for Ducklings." You ever hear that book?
I don't think so.
It was this it's from like the 1930s or 40s or something, and it's just this classic kids book about a mother and all her little ducklings like wandering through, I think it was Boston, and the artwork is very memorable, and it's just a fun little kid story, friendly story. And that's the first thing I thought of when I saw this picture. I was like, make way for peacock. Some Australian author, like children's books author, should do a make way for peacock book. I'll probably do very well with that one. But so a peacock was strutting. You know, if that's the biggest news to hit that town, I got to tell you, they're probably doing all right. They're probably doing all right. Let's see. Who's next? Oh, do I want to do a frosted glass?
You should have saved the story that we read first until after a frosted glass one.
Oh, the peacock one? Oh, no. The Chun-Li one.
Yeah, the Chun-Li
one.
One.
Is it a palate cleanser?
Yeah.
Let's see. I will hold off on doing a frosted glass for a moment. No offense to Frosted. But let's see if we can get through a couple others first. And then, okay, come on, Twitter. Twitter decided to refresh on me. Okay.
Of course.
All right. I'll take this one. Sure, why not? Come on. I have to see my default browser is not the browser that I've got opened up for StreamYard. So the things open up in a different browser and I have to bring them over to this browser. And it's all very complicated. This one comes from Massive Dynamics. Joe Biden defends China on human rights record and accusations of genocide and torture, citing, quote, cultural differences. What?
Are you serious?
Joe Biden has remarkably refused to criticize China's human rights record by suggesting recent controversies, that's putting it mildly, including accusations of genocide against Uyghur Muslims, have come about simply as a result of, quote, cultural differences, unquote. Well, I know, I'll grant you that. It is certainly a cultural difference about interning people for their religious beliefs and lying about it to the world, and what we do in America. So, yeah, I'll give you that. It is a cultural difference.
I hope they provide a full quote. I'd like to see. Did he say this publicly?
During an appearance on CNN on Tuesday, Biden dismissed the genocide against the Uyghur population in China, branding the mass internment a, quote, different norm, unquote. This is despite the American government this month condemning the, quote, atrocities, unquote, in the camps, following reports of systemic rape and torture. He also appeared to justify Chinese President Xi Jinping's strict control of the masses and attempted control of Hong Kong as method for, as I assume they mean a method for unifying the country.
I mean, here's the thing.
It is a method for unifying. I'll give you that under his dictatorial control.
I was just about to say, he's not wrong about anything he said. It's just, I don't think he understands how bad that is.
I think he understands. I think he doesn't care. Quote, if you know anything about Chinese history, it has always been the time when China has been victimized by the outer world is when they haven't been unified at home, unquote. What?
Oh my God.
So wait. China is wait. You're endorsing China, specifically Xi Jinping, holding dictatorial control over every person's life in China, setting up concentration camps for, I don't know, a religious minority, because in that way they're going to secure themselves against being victimized by the outer world? What?
I need a link to this.
Okay. Well, I will put it in the chat. There, it's a big long. Oh, the link is longer than I can put characters into the chat message. Okay, well, you can find it on MSS News, but I'll zap it to you in Twitter DMs right now, just for reference. Okay, quote: so the central, well, vastly overstated, the central principle of Xi Jinping is that there must be a unified, tightly controlled China. And he uses his rationale for the things he does based on that, unquote. President Biden, you are endorsing a dictator, a literal dictator, a genocidal concentration camp running dictator. Biden argued that no American president could be, quote, sustained as a president if he doesn't reflect the values of the United States. Well, I suppose, yes, philosophically that's true. And what values of the United States, I wonder, align with dictatorial concentration camp running genocide of religious minorities? He continued, quote, and so I'm not going to speak out against what he's doing in Hong Kong, what he's doing with the Uyghurs in the Western mountains of China. Culturally, there are different norms in each country, and their leaders are expected to follow, unquote. Okay. So if it's the country's cultural norm to systematically wipe out an entire religious minority, that's their business. I seem to remember, and this is a dangerous thing to bring up. I seem to remember a time in, I don't know, I think it was in the 30s and 40s, and what was it? Germany, something like that was. I'm sure the thing that was right to have done then too was just to say, oh well, that Germans will be Germans. So China's going to be China, is what our president is saying.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
I don't either. That is. He's not going to do anything. He's just going to look past. He's endorsing it effectively.
Imagine if Donald Trump won the election and was presented this question and said the exact words that Biden, like word for word, incoherence and all, like the stuttering and everything, in the exact tone of voice with the exact hand gestures on the stage. Imagine how the fucking internet would be exploding right now, with article after article about how Trump basically fully endorsed this shit.
A recent BBC News expose showed systemic torture and rape occurring in Uyghur concentration camps in Xinjiang. As a direct result, China banned the British outlet in their territory. Right. If you cut out somebody's tongue, you're not punishing the man. You're showing how afraid you are of what he has to say. The U.S. government declared what was going on in the camps to be, quote, genocide, unquote, which makes Mr. Biden's comments all the more bizarre. Bizarre is putting it mildly, in my opinion. When asked if there would be repercussions for China's genocide and overall treatment of the Uyghurs, Biden sidestepped the question, saying the U.S. would, quote, reassert our role as spokespersons for human rights at the UN and other agencies, unquote. Mr. President, you have just abandoned and abdicated our role as quote unquote spokespersons for human rights. You've just set that aside and dismissed our values towards human rights globally by sidestepping the question and for endorsing Xi Jinping's actions. I mean, I'm happy to have somebody give me a different angle on this, but I don't think any CNN fact check in the world could overcome that insanity.
Oh my God. And I'll go to hashtag Biden Town Hall And there's literally one mention of this. Everything else is about all the other shit he talked about. Only one person is mentioning the fact that this happened. Oh my God.
Understatement. Stop making America the spokesperson for the world. I don't think America should be the spokesperson for the world, but it should be a spokesperson for America and America's values. And so if the U.S. president's going to stand up there and when confronted with something that is so blatantly terrible and rings a bit familiar in history, if his response is, well, they have cultural differences and it's not really our business, that's not reflective of American values. Can you imagine, if you will, a moment, the greatest generation, those who fought in World War II, if they heard this thing, do you think that reflects America's values, that kind of attitude towards that kind of things taking place? What did everybody die for back in the 40s? What happened to never again? And I understand that this would not be the first time the hypocrisy of the global population or the global community has reared its ugly head on that point. You think about Rwanda, you think about the Congo, you think about a million other places in this world where genocide or the attempts of it have still occurred and little or nothing has been done to try to prevent it. But I don't know, maybe I'm just shocked by the blatant just apathy about it here.
This should be huge. Like this, it is what it is, I guess.
Thank you, Dark Resurrect. We have literal history repeating itself, and we aren't doing a goddamn thing about it. Apparently not. Thank you, Bacall Driving 8 Man. Had to step away. Have you heard about HR 484 yet? Is that the one where they want to deny Trump a burial in Arlington Cemetery, etc.? Maybe that's it. Now, just so no one quote gets away from it either way, Trump didn't do anything about this either. Because this was going on while Trump was still president. And I don't recall Trump taking any substantive irate bear actions on the subject either. And again, I'm happy to be corrected, but whatever comments he may or may not have made are irrelevant insofar as what Biden has to say on it. And what Biden has to say on it here is just incredible. So, yeah. And if you disagree with Trump not having done anything about it, or made any kind of moves to try to sanction China for it or anything else. And again, if he did, I apologize. I don't recall. Biden should be doing at least twice as much as Trump was, if you want to say that Biden is the cure for what Trump was.
Well, you got to remember, there's a trend that's going on right now, and it's going to continue to go on as the weeks and months go on. It's the response every time. In every feed that criticizes Biden for anything. It was 2 weeks ago. It's only been 2 weeks. A week ago, it's only been 3 weeks. Right now, under the post where the dude was talking about what Biden said and the lack of things that he's completed, it's only been 4 weeks. Calm down. Yeah. And 3 months from now, it's only been 4 months. Relax.
Yeah. How long should everyone's collective patience be for things that he could act on now, or at least make some kind of declaration of a plan for?
Until the media tells them that it's been enough time.
Okay. All right. And now I will pick J-Random Frosted Glass submission. This one is like an advice column one, so maybe it'll be more entertaining than it is infuriating. I don't know. Let's find out. No, go away. Help! My aunt says it's a choice to be offended by racial slurs.
She's right.
Your aunt is correct. In fact, offense, generally speaking, at least that which is in regards to describing your emotional reaction to something, is always taken, not given. Someone can attempt to offend you, but it is a choice to have it do so. Danny M. Lavery is online weekly to chat live with readers. This week's live chat had technical difficulties, but Lavery still answered questions that were sent in Here's an edited transcript. Boy, oh boy. Wish I could get a question in there. It reminds me of the time I got a question onto the NPR show, and they actually answered it thinking I was being serious. It was great. Question. Aunt wants to get over racial slurs. Okay. My aunt, father's sister, as if that were relevant, and I have had a fairly acrimonious relationship since I was in my teens, mostly because of her dislike of my mother. Fast forward to Christmas of this year when I texted my aunt and her husband to thank them for some cookies they sent me. We started talking again, exchanging memes and discussing our shared love of photography in what I had hoped was a fresh start. Talk turned to politics eventually because we both believed our politics aligned somewhat, me more as a leftist and her a liberal. There is a difference there, if you can believe it. However, when I mentioned that I was happy to see white people experience consequences when they use slurs such as the N-word, she said it was a choice to be offended by slurs like that and how people needed to get over it. She even spelled it out. I was totally bewildered. We are both white women. I told her it was inappropriate and racist for her to write or say that word. She continued to use it, saying she should be able to because it was just a word. I went on to provide her with multiple sources about why it was offensive and racist. She then said how I was, quote, looking for reasons to have contempt for her, unquote, and how she and, quote, the family, unquote, have never understood why I've always hated her. This went on until I eventually stopped responding. However, she's texted me every day this past week trying to talk again like nothing's happened. So how do I address the obvious racism with someone who thinks she's, quote, the most accepting and multicultural person in our family, unquote, for one, and secondly, always makes herself out to be the victim when I disagree with her on anything? Okay, well, my first question, of course, would be, why was her saying that word to you in that context inherently racist? What does she do? What does she do that's racist? I mean, does she go up to black people and just yell that at them?
No. Just uttering the word in any context whatsoever, it makes you a racist person, which is fascinating.
I'd be curious to see what the article author here has to say about that, because the inherent question, offense is a choice, is true. But let's see. Answer. The line about "you've been looking for reasons to have contempt for me," unquote, puts me slightly in mind with the vanishing cousin letter. Don't know what that is. Where the letter writer seems to think Amy whimsically decided to end all contact with her family of origin merely because they reacted badly to a single haircut once. Okay. As in your case, what seems to be the likelier explanation is that the person being singled out for making waves by objecting to homophobia or racism is repeatedly dismissed, such that further conversation becomes impossible, at which point the singled out person is scapegoated as being difficult, recalcitrant, obstinate, and unreasonable. It's just a word, or it's just a haircut. You know already, I think, that you were right to object to your aunt's repeated use of the N-word. It's straightforwardly racist and...
You're racist.
I bet if her aunt had been using cracker over and over again at her, do you think she would have rejected her as soundly?
No, she probably would have laughed and be like, yeah, I hate those crackers too.
If you say, quote, it's racist to use the N-word and you need to stop, unquote, and her response is, actually, I'm the most multicultural person in this family, unquote, she has not meaningfully responded to you. Why does she? Well, what response would be the correct response? If the argument she was trying to make is offense is a choice, which was the start of this whole thing, then how is that offensive to her? Unless she chooses for it to be in that context, and she's obviously baiting you. I mean, don't get me wrong; the aunt is baiting her completely, but we're not actually getting to the basic, the core of this question. Continue to acknowledge reality and continue to refuse her dodge. Quote, I'm not going to talk about TV or cute memes while you continually assert your right to use racial slurs. It's not a right, but a choice. You want to use racial slurs and you want me to agree that it's a good idea. I don't think no, that's not what she said. Or at least that's not what in the information we were relayed. She's not saying it's a good idea. She was trying to make a point about offense.
I think I might have missed something.
Yeah.
Did the conversation shift? What happened here?
Sounds like a dodge. Uh-oh. Roboting issue. Skipping. It's good now. Uh-oh. Okay. Are we all right, guys? Let me know. I'll read through this quick and then I'll stop doing articles because obviously it might be causing some problems. She may very well keep trying to make herself out to be the victim here. I don't have many illusions that you're going to change her mind overnight, but you can and should hold fast to what's right and what's important, and you have a pretty airtight defense. Quote, she wouldn't stop using the N-word. I think that's wrong. Everything else is just noise. I think you missed the point the aunt was attempting to make. But again, the aunt was obviously trying to bait her niece, I believe is a niece, and so on. But yeah, anyway. Let's see. Dr. Keefe says, I think it's affecting different people at different times. It's okay on my end now. Okay. Well, audio visual is back. Drop the quality to 320 and 5x5. That might be a YouTube thing, guys. That sounds more like it might be a YouTube issue.
Yeah.
But, okay. Well, anyway, I will stop sharing articles now. So if it continues after that, for some reason, it's obviously not me sharing articles. But anyway, guys, we're going to move on to the wonderful world of YouTube time. Thank you so much for all the articles. Sorry I didn't get to them all, but, you know, things happen. So let's see. YouTube time. Satsu. Actually, I have to run and check something real quick. Satsu, go ahead with your YouTube. Tell me right back.
Okay. Let's see here. I didn't finish, but I did the voice work for a cooking video that I had to edit, and that's taken care of. So that should be going up tomorrow. I should be able to finish getting that taken care of tomorrow morning. I did a stream over on the Twitch channel playing some cooking simulator, and unfortunately that game is still fucky and janky and all over the damn place. So it's still fun. You know, they added some new stuff, some quality of life things to make things a little more interesting and streamlined, but it's still kind of broken. So the chat got to enjoy me screwing up because of the game being all screwed up. Are you back?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So that was fun. I uploaded a video about my reaction to the Monster Hunter thing that was going on. That went up. I think the new Honey Pop episode went up today too, because I set that to auto go up, and I'd completely forgotten about it. So I was getting notifications on my phone, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That did go up today. So the people got to see that. Scribe, by chance, are you watching those? Or have you?
I watched the first one, okay, and I got through a couple minutes of the second one today, but then I got distracted by all my other stuff going on. So I've seen bits and pieces. Yeah. Okay.
Just generally speaking, what do you think about the direction I'm taking that in?
I think having the narrating character there is really funny. Mm-hmm. That voice, I see that. I've heard that voice used in many different videos and things, and it always sounds very comedic to me. That is a bizarre freaking game, man. I mean, it seems like I just think like I'm aware of the game and I know what it's about. I remember seeing a lot of stuff on the first one. It seems like you're having to be put through a lot of hoops to get to the ultimate prize, but it's also, I don't know if this is the right word, but it also feels kind of endearing that it's so self-aware as to how ridiculous it is.
And that, you know what, that is a good word, and that's the reason why the people like this game so much, because it is full on 100%. We're fucking doing this, you know? And I love it because I'm just like, it doesn't pull any punches. All the caricatures are exactly that. They are the most extreme versions of what each one is supposed to be. And they don't give no fucks about it. And I love it.
I think the element to it that probably makes it so popular is that it lets you, it's making you a part of, it's like an inside joke. Mm-hmm. It's making the audience part of the joke going on because it knows it's not serious. It's very self-aware. And it knows why you're here. Right. And so really it can throw anything at you if you're the person that's going to play this game, because they know why you're playing it. So they might as well have fun while they're doing it. That's a sense I get. So, I mean, it's obviously as adult rated as you can imagine a game, both in its with the words that it uses, and I'm sure the imagery that you're not showing. Yeah, that's I can see the appeal for people who can take a joke playing that game. Thank you, Officer Buck. Ina Dapuna. Yeah, I did see that part in the video today. Yeah,
that's the name of the island. Yeah. It's really the one thing that's interesting. I'm probably going to be doing a video about this because I actually want to talk extensively about what makes this game so appealing to me. But one thing in particular is they have added a new element to the game called baggage. And at first, I'm just like, "Fuck this," like you're just this is just a barrier to make it harder to get to the result that I'm looking at. Until I started actually playing and realizing that each one of these characters now, they have gone beyond just making them caricatures. The baggage that they've added has given them added elements and actually added to their personalities, and it goes so far to even health issues. And what's tripped out is it makes you consider those things when you're dating these girls. Like you have to. If the girl you're dating, one of the girls you're dating has asthma, because one of the chicks, she has asthma, and the other girl, she's a heavy smoker or whatever. Yeah. Every now and then, on a turn that they're supposed to get another turn, their asthma could kick in, and you could lose that turn. So you have to be mindful of that, okay. Or if a girl has anxiety issues, or if she doesn't like to be too much of the center of attention, if you spend too many turns on her, it'll make her clam up or whatever. Clam up. It'll make her kind of tense up, and then the next turn you won't be able to do anything with her. You have to switch to the other girl because now you've made her uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm actually fucking taking into consideration the imaginary fucking actual flaws that these chicks have while I'm playing this stupid game.
Well, it sounds a lot like a trading card game in a lot of ways. It sounds like a lot of things you have to keep into account. One of the I think best asymmetric card games you can find out there is Netrunner. They don't make it anymore, although an independent group is still making cards for it and everything. But there's so many like the conditions, like and people who play Magic and things like this already know this, but every time you put out a card, it may add conditions to the game and to the play style that you have to keep in mind as you proceed, either obstructions or advantages and so on. And there are consequences involved if you forget about that being there or something else. That's what that sounds like when you describe that. But that's a lot of strategy involved for what amounts to a play to see anime weeb naked pictures at the end of it. Yeah.
It's actually kind of crazy how, because like I said, I played the first one, and you just kind of get into the puzzle after the appeal of the what you're there for kind of wears off. You're just like, okay, now I'm just playing a puzzle game,
right.
Whatever. Yeah. But it's crazy how much more involved this one makes you. You know what I mean? Like you have to really plan ahead, and take into consideration who these people are. It's weird.
Well, that's I mean, like I said, between just from watching the videos that you put up, between the humor, the self-awareness, also I'm not much of an anime freak, but the art looks pretty clear to me. It looks pretty tight. And then you add the fact that the game is actually challenging and requires you to think and strategize. You put a good game on top of an inside joke, on top of porn pictures at the end of the deal. That's a great business strategy. Obviously, I would love to know if I don't know if they ever released those kind of numbers. I'd be curious to know if they ever released any sales numbers for this game. So,
right, I'll be right back. Let me go check on her.
Oh, sure. Let's see. Okay, I'll hold on. I have some not internet fuck it. It would fall into the segment of fucketry, but it's not fucketry. I have some very, very happy news taking place right now on my Twitter. This is great. I'll talk about that later. I'll do my YouTube stuff quick because it's not going to be very complicated. I did a TED Excellence today. As I said earlier, it was a significant event of a kind. For those of you that haven't seen it yet, I don't want to give it away. So you'll just have to, watch it at your own peril. But yeah, it was. Let me just say, somehow, without, and people have asked me this before. I never watch these things ahead of time. Never. I'm almost always, and you'll hear me say it, going off of the subject outlined in the title, or maybe there are some other elements that I might read the blurb underneath it a little bit on the video just to get an idea of if the title itself is somehow unclear, ambiguous, or something, just so I know, like, where are they going at? But other than that, I don't know what's going to happen in these things. So I'm always surprised one way or the other. And boy, howdy, was I surprised today. I don't know how much more I can play it up without giving anything away. But those of you who are with me, you were in the trenches along with all of us. And those of you who haven't seen it yet, watch at your own mental peril. That's all I'll say about that. The title, I'll at least give you the title of the thing, if it makes any sense. Not sure that it does. Radical Social Justice Education Through High Fives. Now, what does radical social justice education have to do with high fives? I still don't know. But she sure tried to show us, I guess. So there's that. That's my YouTube time. Did you have anything else, Satsu?
Not really. After this, I'm probably going to, depending on if Aaliyah stays asleep, if she's sound asleep after this, I might play some more Cooking Simulator. So if you guys want to hang out and check that out, because I got some time tonight, because after this cooking video, I would have finished all of my weekly tasks, and I didn't plan on kickstarting my new list of tasks, which consists of like 6 videos that I'll have to be putting up throughout the week until Sunday. So I've been doing really good with keeping up with the schedule. So I got some free time that I've earned from working so hard. Yay!
All righty. So I'm going to jump into quote unquote fucketry real quick because, so I mentioned earlier in the show that I got a shout out on a Benjamin Boyce's stream. And I tweeted out, wow, I just got a shout out from Benjamin Boyce. If you like his content, you should really look at it. Here's a link to his channel. He responded back. He quote tweeted that and said, Scribe Light does great work untangling woke dogma. Find him at, and he put up my channel address. Nice. And just in the last 20 minutes, I've got 6 new followers on my Twitter, and 11 people, most of whom aren't subscribed to me on Twitter, following me on Twitter, liked my tweet regarding Benjamin. And now, just because I'm very curious, I'm happily curious, I'm going to check my subscriber count. So it was 4828 when we started the show. It is now 4834. Nice. So in the last hour, 45 minutes or whatever, I've gained 6 new followers. Now that might not seem much to some people, but as I've said a million times, when I started out doing this, I told myself I'm going to be amazed if I get 50 people subscribed to my channel who actually want to listen to what I have to say. So on the off chance that anybody who has just subscribed and or followed me on Twitter is here now in the chat, just checking it out because it shows that we're live. Hi, welcome to the show. I have done a lot of TED Excellence streams over the last year. The pandemic kind of shunted me into that for various reasons. However, I do have playlists of a lot of other stuff to look at. I know it might be slightly, you have to scroll down a little bit, but under my little subject that I call some of my best work, I've got Curriculum of Fear, I've got Expatriate Games, a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm especially proud of Curriculum of Fear and a lot of the stuff in there, and my early TEDx talks as well. Not that I hate the current TEDx talk stuff, that's always entertaining, but that's more of a catharsis, mental escape of a kind. So anyway, anybody who's here that's new, welcome. Hope you enjoy my stuff, and thanks for checking it out.
Sparks says hello.
Oh, hello.
In the chat, they said they came from the recommendation. So.
Oh, well, hi, Sparks. Nice to meet you. Yeah, I've followed Benjamin off and on since he started doing the Evergreen State College rundowns, saga, whatever you want to call it. This is, and I made this comparison on Twitter. Like I compared Evergreen State College to the CHOP of educational institutions. If you saw what was happening at Evergreen State College back when it was happening live, so to speak, and I honestly don't recall if I ever made that comparison while CHOP was happening, but you would notice similarities immediately. You would see the reflections of the kinds of things happening at CHOP in originally Evergreen State College, because the same mentality, the same self-righteousness and social justice, insanity, and all that took over that school for a time, like physically held hostage teachers and staff because of their demands for equity and justice and so on. You wouldn't be surprised, at least, by the developments at CHOP and onward. But anyway, so yeah, those of you in our audience who don't know about Benjamin Boyce, be sure to go check him out and check out his videos as well. Anyway, do I have any other internet circuitry to talk about today? Probably not much, because I was so busy with work and such. We talked about the Chun-Li thing. Yeah, I think that's really all I had, because there was this New York Times article, and I obviously can't cover it here in its fullness, but I'm going to read the headline. They thought, why not move to Iran? The decision upended their lives.
Wait, they thought what? What now?
So the sub-blurb says, an Iranian-American couple's relocation to Iran after their daughter went off to college in the United States was a mistake paid for in accusations of spying. And then it trails off into, I think, accusations of spying, murky prosecution, and prison.
Wow.
Okay, so it's like, let's just move to Iran. And my only comment on this, and I understand that it's not anything to laugh about, but all the same, I said, that outcome seems fairly self-evident to me. If you're going to say, hey, we live in America, let's move to Iran. I don't know why anyone who has lived for any significant amount of time in America would then willingly want to relocate to a totalitarian theocracy. A bankrupt totalitarian theocracy. So it's one of those things where it's like, I feel really sorry for that family. At the same time, if they didn't go in with their eyes wide open as to what they were doing, I don't know. Now, I can't read the entire story, unfortunately, because the New York Times wants me to subscribe to their stuff. But if you have a subscription, or want to try to find maybe there's an alternate source for that same story. But yeah, that was just like, okay. Outside of that, yeah, that's really all I had that's of note today, aside from the welcome promotion by Benjamin Boyce. So Satsu, do you have any internet circuitry today?
Did I get into anything? Let's see. Let's head over to Bookface. That is the place where I like to get in trouble, because I don't know why. I'm not quite sure why, but
because you're a masochist.
You might be onto something.
I know a little bit about that, or at least one aspect of it.
All right. Let's see, because there was a. Oh, what's really funny though? Oh, I did share that the Chun-Li article.
Yes.
And somebody commented, "This is hilarious because there's no way this can be real. The author probably misled them." And I'm just like, all you have to do is read it.
Yeah, it's very easy to read it. And the fact that they put a thing at the bottom, they confessed that they got it wrong to begin with. Now, I will credit Jezebel for not just deleting the article.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever credit I could extend to them, I will extend that much credit. There are a lot of places who would have just like blipped that out of existence and try to memory hole it. And while it's not exactly the most scandalous mistake to ever make, it's still pretty hilarious and still pretty embarrassing. But they kept it up, so good on them.
Yeah, I mean, they took that L like a champ. But I'm just
true.
like, bro, that person needs to be. Well, here's the thing. It's Jezebel. Jezebel is not a gaming journal. It's not a gaming magazine or whatever. Or whatever.
I put a link to the story back in the chat for you guys. If you don't know about the Chun-Li story, just take a look at that. It'll be self-evident to anybody who knows anything about fighting games. But anyway, so go ahead, Satsu.
Yeah, so I feel just a little. I don't want to be like, they should fucking know this, because like not everybody's a gamer. But goddamn, if you're not, then the slightest bit of groundwork, to help you out with the article that you're about to publicly put out to the world, I don't think that's too much to ask for.
No, but I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, and I realize this is just about video games and all, but and I do this to myself, and I think everyone should. You should really fight the urge to start pontificating as if you know something on something you don't know anything about.
Yes.
I mean, giving your opinion on a situation or whatever else. If you are going off or going to start contributing to some discussion or something on a subject you aren't familiar with, you should do yourself the favor as often as you can in predicating anything you have to say with, this isn't exactly my area, or I'm sure someone else knows more about this than I do. I mean, at least give that caveat and be self-admitting that you're not all there, and don't act like a know-it-all, because that sounded like somebody's acting like a know-it-all.
Yeah, they they wrote that with so much confidence,
Yes, exactly.
And I'm just like, yeah, you should probably do your homework. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to avoid. Like, I needed to make sure I got that out, because I'm like, I don't want people to be like, these fuckers should know that or whatever. But I'm like, they're journalists, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say Jezebel is not their ballywick is not the gaming industry, etc. But again, if you're going to write an article complaining about a franchise leaving out an important character, you should at least know a little bit about the franchise you're criticizing first. It doesn't matter that it's about a video game; it's a subject you've decided to cover. So,
dude, and I know there has to be some kind of parody Chun-Li account out there.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish they would have chimed in.
Well, now you're going to see, and I'll bet $1 that this is going to happen. Someone is now going to splice Chun-Li into the Mortal Kombat trailer. Or something. Someone's going to respond to this and say, Jezebel presents Mortal Street Fighter Combat 2 Turbo. And it's going to be like Chun-Li and M. Bison kicking Sub-Zero's head off or something. It'll be crazy. It'll be great. Or they'll take footage from the Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Okay, I bet you that is happening right now. Somebody is throwing that together right now.
Oh my God. That whole situation is just baffling.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a process. Like, people don't just write articles and slap them on the website. Like, it has to go through people. And
Jezebel, I would assume they don't have any kind of editorial check.
You don't think so?
No, not to the extent of a. Well, okay. Admittedly, we read CNN and we see how often that there's apparently went through no editorial filter whatsoever.
Yeah, sometimes, I was about to say, what news network, reputable one, we can compare them to and say.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, that's true. But I would assume, and again, if somebody knows otherwise, but I would think that Jezebel has a far looser set of filters from writing to posting on their site than, say, a CNN would. Even a CNN would, but I could be wrong. But if there were, you would think someone would at least fact check the complaint before posting it publicly. Because obviously somebody came along afterwards. It took somebody on the internet, I'm sure, telling them that article is BS for them to put that update at the bottom where they corrected themselves.
Yeah. They had to see like the fallout and was like, oof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's definitely a trending. So I'm sure they got the full brunt of that. And you know what? I hope they saw that and was just like, fuck, and it's not like people aren't giving them. I mean, it's Jezebel, so kind of fuck them, but like I hope people aren't attacking them for this.
I mean, it's one of those things where I hope ultimately both the author and generally people see it in good humor as just a dunderhead mistake, but not exactly something to get mad over.
Yeah.
I mean, if Jezebel really wanted to absorb all this, they themselves would produce a spliced up video of Chun-Li in the Mortal Kombat trailer and say, Jezebel presents, and just, own the joke. That's the best way to go about it.
I'd straight put up, like, you can't be wrong if you have editing software.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, make a joke out of it or something, so that way we can all laugh. But like, at least, like you said, at least they owned up to it, they didn't just delete it or turn it into some because I'm sure it was a female author, a person who wrote that, or turn it into another one of our writers is being attacked by the toxic mobs because of a mistake or so, because that would really just ruin the whole appeal of this situation.
We'll see what they end up doing. Yeah,
we'll see how that turns out. That was pretty much the bulk of my fucketry, though. Just
so there's something else I wanted to bring up, and there's not really a point to this per se, but so as YouTube is wont to do from time to time, it starts recommending to me things that I actually like listening to, which doesn't always happen, but sometimes does. And recently, for whatever reason, it started throwing debates and interviews and discussions from Christopher Hitchens at me. And for those of you that don't know who Christopher Hitchens was, and it's very unfortunate that I have to talk about him in the past tense, he was a prolific writer and commentator and debater of a zillion different subjects you can think of. In his sort of twilight years, the sort of unfortunately sudden twilight years, because he was diagnosed with cancer back in 2009, I think, 2011, somewhere in there. He took on religion, he said, specifically because he was inspired by 9/11 to try to debunk the forces that had led to that. And his debates on or against religious figures on the existence of an afterlife or the supernatural and all, I had never really, I'd heard of him. I didn't know much about him until those debates started coming out. And his method of argumentation, breaking down a subject, analyzing it, his use of critical thinking, and especially his wit and turn of phrase, was one of the things that inspired me partially to start doing YouTube. And also to, even before that, really focus in on my own critical thinking skills, my own efforts to assess what I was being told and, try to think about it rationally, pragmatically, and so on. Anyway, that's all preamble to say I had a thought today. And now, like I sort of hinted at earlier, I am sure there is someone who has done more research on this than I possibly could have ever done in the afternoon that I was thinking about this. So I might be entirely redundant to somebody else's work. However, one of the interviews with Christopher Hitchens reminded me of something, and that is that his book that sort of sent him on this debate tour called God Is Not Great, it came out around the same time as several different books that covered subjects like that, either debunking or attempting to, or at least promote critical thinking about supernatural things and religion and things like that. There was Sam Harris's book that I suddenly forget what it was called. I had it in my head a minute ago. But anyway, part of the thing that happened was that Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, and Richard Dawkins all released books of a similar genre in that kind of thing, of really critical thinking about what we think about the world versus what we know and that kind of stuff. They call themselves the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse as kind of a joke, or the New Apocalypse. And so Christopher Hitchens mentioned that all of these books came out around the same time, back in the middle of the 2000s. And they sold like hotcakes. I mean, these are very popular books at the time, and got a lot of coverage. And End of Faith, that was the name of the Sam Harris book, The End of Faith. But anyway, and I was thinking, we've talked a lot, and I've talked a lot on my channel about how social justice and wokeness and everything else, and now anti-racism as a philosophy, harkens back very strongly to original sin and sort of very religious overtones without actually any kind of necessarily a mystical element to it, although some things could be considered to be such. And I thought for a second, if back in the mid 2000s, all of these books were selling a lot, if that line of skeptical thinking about, religious topics was very, took over a lot of people's minds, if by some chance the popularity of those books dispelled a lot of religious faith, let's say, I was thinking that would leave a vacuum, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that leave a vacuum for people wanting to belong to something or feel that they are part of something bigger, but now maybe they've had doubts about being part of something that was more supernatural? And then I also thought about, and some of you may remember this, the movement called Atheism Plus. This was something that I still don't understand all of it, but it was one of the first things that I'd ever had presented to me where someone attempted to take something that was fairly boring, like just atheism, which isn't a movement and isn't a faith. It's just, the not believing in, or at least being skeptical enough about, supernatural things as to not have religion. But also called Atheism Plus. And there was a guy who was sort of the leader of this thing. I think his name was like Richard Carrier. And he made it very explicit as to what that was about. Atheism plus, intersectionality, atheism plus feminism, atheism plus this, that, and the other. And anyway, there's I understand, long way of getting to, I wonder if the timing of the popularity of those books and the message and the promotion of critical thinking about supernatural things was so popular. I wonder if the vacuum that was created, and again, I'm just guessing, that might have been created by that, opened up the door for something like a social religion, as we've seen, to fill the gap in the meantime. I wonder if that kind of resistance to one form of faith allowed this other form of social faith to take up the slack. That was just the thought that I had. Now, I'm not necessarily looking for a discussion. I mean, maybe there is one. I don't know if I'm right. It's just rhetoric, but it's the thought I had today, and I thought I would just dole it out there in the minutes we had between Friday time and question time.
So basically, people who lost that faith are looking for something similar that they can latch back on to because they can't function without it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I was just thinking that the gradual decrease in the popularity and the attendance of churches, but the obvious human need to belong. And I'm not necessarily talking about necessarily something religious, but I mean, Maslow's triangle, right? You got your shelter, your food, your, et cetera. And at some point there's a need of belonging. It's just a human instinct. It's how we come together. It's how we form communities and onward and onward. And, it sucks being alone. So I was just thinking that maybe the sort of natural instinct of people wanting to belong to something, but religion is out of, and again, it depends on what part of the country you're in. And I'm not knocking on anybody's religion. I'm just sort of, speculating here. But the general decline in religious attendance and things like that might have made it easier for things like this to take hold in people's minds, since they didn't have an alternative that on hand, or either on hand to them or on hand offered by their the authority figures in their life. If the adults who are reading those books back in the early 2000s are now teaching or mentoring the kids that have grown up into teenagedom in the last 10 years or so. Maybe it's just kind of that's how it's passed on or something. I don't know. Like I say, this is all weird speculation on my part I had this morning after watching a clip from Christopher Hitchens. So there you go. There's where my mind was going today.
Mm-hmm.
But all that being said, we've talked enough. I mean, we'll talk some more, but we will talk about what you want to talk about because now it's question time. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, complaints, conspiracy theories, put them into the chat now. If you have questions for us directly, please put plenty of chat marks after those. If you have statements for us to consider, please put plenty of statement marks after those. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your local chat partner and they will be happy to inform you. Going into the chat, Jedi Ghost Bear, Scribe Light, I think you're exactly right about this. I've thought about it quite a bit, and you could take a look at Tom Holland's book Dominion. Wait, Spider-Man wrote a book? Okay. Tom Holland's book Dominion, you might find it interesting. And like I say, I am 100% sure that someone has done a much more extensive genealogy backtracking of where all the current zeitgeist may have come from or been inspired by and so on. I'm 100% sure that's the case. In fact, I've probably read or looked at something like that in the past. But just as a disclaimer, I don't think I've come up with something brilliant here. It was just where my mind went today because of things going on in the world and so on. So if I come even close in my sort of guesses, I'll be more surprised than anybody else. But that's, just to make sure nobody thinks I'm trying to take credit where there's no credit due. Let's see. Data Wasteland Scribbles, you are never alone if you have a bloody volleyball. Yes, but I'm sure I would be even less alone if I were Tom Hanks. Oh, well. Check your logic. Do you and Benjamin plan to guest on each other's streams as you guested Kurt Metzger? I haven't thought had even occurred to me, honestly. I would love to have Benjamin on sometime for a TEDx or something, sure. Or just to do a familiar with the matter, just to give maybe a rundown on Evergreen State College, since he's basically a self-taught expert on the subject. But and I've watched a few of the videos, but I couldn't ever claim to know as much as he does about it. So who knows? We'll see. Motto Winter, oh lords, would y'all try some French toast with baked salmon on it, a bowl of egg drop soup, and a volcanic glass cup of hot chocolate with vanilla foam? I don't hate all of that. Although the combination of French toast, salmon, and egg drop soup sounds, I think that might upset my stomach.
Yeah, you're a little all over the place culturally with that one.
Yeah. So yeah, but the hot chocolate with vanilla foam is fine by me. I love hot chocolate. So Cannibalistic Wizard continues the trend. Strips of gator wrapped with bacon, smoked and topped with a hickory barbecue sauce, potatoes, carrots, and asparagus roasted in a light buttering of lard and a glass of spring water with lemon. I'm usually not a fan of asparagus, but when it's mixed in with other stuff and it's seasoned and stuff, I don't hate it too much. That doesn't sound too bad. I mean, I guess it depends on whether or not you like gator. But gator just kind of tastes like chickenish pork beef or something, so I don't know.
Chickenish pork beef.
That's the best. I don't know how else to describe it. Everybody say it tastes like chicken. It tastes like a couple of things. I had gator sausage the time I went down. The couple times I went down to Louisiana. Man, I gotta say there's nothing better than Southern cooking. I tell you what, when I went on I talked about this before. I went to a family reunion in Texas one time, many years ago, and there were so many versions of fried chicken and brownies and iced tea and pies. It was so good. And then Louisiana, I had the went to that one place and had the beignets. For breakfast, beignets and cocoa. Oh my God, man! If I lived in Louisiana, I'd be so fat now. And then the gator sausage, and went to the Absinthe Bar just off of St. Louis Square. I'd had absinthe previously to that, but they know how to make their absinthe stuff. Anyway, sorry, I'm Now, wandering off into memories of wonderful food.
That is not a bad thing to do.
Not a bad thing to do. Let's see. Frosted Glass. Can you believe they left Princess Peach out of the Mortal Kombat trailer?
Hey, okay, chat. We need to all work together to make this happen. We need to make a hashtag about all the other characters that are missing out of the Mortal Kombat trailer. And it could be any character from anything. Just get a screenshot and type in what should be the hashtag? Hashtag missing from MK.
No, well, yeah, that's not a bad. Or I was just thinking at this point, why don't they just do like Mortal Kombat Smash? Just like anybody can come in. I mean, they basically have. They've had in like, I mean, Rambo's in there now, and they got the Terminator. I mean, it's basically Smash Brothers, but Mortal Kombat, because they'll bring in just about anybody. But but it has to be a character from another video game franchise that's not Mortal Kombat. I think that should be the rule. If it's going to be Chun-Li, then it's got to be like, why was Kirby left out of Mortal Kombat?
Yes.
Let's see, Dr. Keeve. In the past, people were buried with the items they would need in the afterlife. What would you want buried with you so you could use it in the afterlife? Oh. I'd probably need my glasses because I can't see without them.
My Switch.
I need to keep myself entertained. Well, taken with me. Yeah, my glasses. My grandfather's dog tag, which I still wear from his dog tag from World War II. I still wear that. I guess just like sentimental items, I guess, and sort of like I say, glasses, the functional items, things like that. Oh, and the ring on my thumb, which was a gift to me from someone. So I'd probably want to keep that too. Let's see. Pirates Creed. So what you're saying, Scribe, is that Hitchens is responsible for Miranda in Mass Effect getting her ass reduced? Maybe. Tangentially? I don't know.
All right, guys. I shared the first one. Get the ball rolling.
No, what was it? Hold on.
Hashtag missing from MK is the hashtag.
Okay. All right, I'll look it up here in a second. Let's see. Lord Powers. You can turn water to wine, but when you die, someone somewhere, hundreds of years after you die, will start a crusade. Like each time I turn water into wine, there'll be a separate crusade that occurs. Because that, first off, I'm not a really big wine drinker, so I don't know that I really care to. How many crusades can the world deal with? I don't know.
Who knows?
I'd say probably no. Let's see. JB says, Lord Powers, you get the most powerful ability that you can think of, but in order for it to work, you have to eat a small amount of poop.
Wait, what?
The fuel for your uber superpower has to be poop. I'd say no.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
I would not do that. No, that's no fun. Dr. Keeve, do you see most people achieving anything spectacular during this COVID crisis? Achieving something spectacular? I mean, things like this, and just as an example, it has nothing to do particularly with COVID, but I've seen images of people in Texas just doing the most neighborly, supportive things for one another in a crisis like that. And I've seen a lot of really good things and charitable things and nice things done amongst people who have sort of accepted the fact that in a lot of ways, whether you agree with how the government's handled it, if you agree with all the scientific claims or the lies there, or the back and forth from what people have said versus what they've changed their minds on, the general understanding and, despite all the other things, camaraderie that's come about from a lot of this. I always think that's impressive because it's really tough to be, sometimes it's really tough to be nice when things are this stressful. And so when I've seen people who go past that and are still able to treat each other with respect and even with charity and such, that seems spectacular to me, all things considered. And there might, but as far as like actual like major things, I have to think that, in times where stuff like this happens, people find ways to innovate and solve for problem. Necessity is the mother of invention in a lot of ways. So between developments, the fast tracking of the vaccine, for whatever else might be said about it, the pinnacle of science and biotechnology and everything that had to line up for that to happen as quickly as it did, to actually create a vaccine for something as moving a target as it is as a coronavirus, that's amazing to me. That's really amazing to me. I think that's an accomplishment of science that whatever the politics around it might be should be lauded altogether. And that everything that came about from that, all of the work that went into that, all the things that had to be developed to make that happen, there will be residual benefits from all of that going forward with other vaccines and other diseases. And just think of all the things that they found out in the course of trying to fight this one disease that weren't necessarily applicable to it, but might be useful later. So some good will come from this. And I've seen some good done during this. So long answer, yes. Frosted Glass, losing religion. Sorry.
So you've been giving a lot of long answers tonight.
I know. Well, I don't know. Maybe having Monkey around was sort of shackling my sense of speaking out, so I didn't want to talk over everybody. I don't know.
Well, this does support the claim that I've constantly made that I don't interrupt you nearly as much as you claim I do.
Oh no. I mean, the aggregate of you and Monkey together, mostly Monkey, was just a running theme. But no, I wouldn't say, and if I ever did, I was mistaken to say that you were the chief culprit.
Oh no, not the chief culprit. I was just like, because of the overreaction, Monkey would go like 20 times in a row, and I'd step in one time, like, let me get a word in, and you're like, oh god damn it, and I'm like, look, I took my one for the week.
It's all melodrama, I swear.
Oh, I know, trust me.
Frosted Glass, losing religion led to social justice. Didn't REM warn us about this? Sure. Mata Winter, so Scribe, when is the Brokeback Mountain theme? I'll get to that as soon as I get through all the other movies that I love. And Brokeback Mountain not being one of those, it's going to be a while. Red Dirt Runner, Lords, what is your favorite sit and relax listening music? Oh. Well, I have like a playlist somewhere on here of a bunch of songs that I've collected over time that I like. And it runs the gamut from some techno stuff to some 80s stuff to, I don't know. What was the one that I posted the other day? Oh, Whiskey in a Jar by Metallica. Specifically the stick death animation version of that song. If you look up on YouTube, Whiskey in a Jar, Stick Death, it's a old Flash video basically turned into a YouTube video from the early 2000s, and I think it's the best rendition of Whiskey in a Jar as a music video. That's always fun to listen to. I listened to some Roy Orbison the other day. I always like Roy Orbison. Every time I saw him, I always thought he was like the real Dr. Octopus because of his glasses. But I don't know. Do you have any relaxed music, Satsu?
I definitely have a playlist that I listen to whenever I'm frustrated or whatever. But there's a variety of music in there. All kinds of stuff, from a lot of 90s R&B, because a lot of that music is just like chill and reminds me of just being younger when shit was simpler, because that was the music we listened to back then. And a lot of OPs and EDs from a lot of shows that I like to watch that are super chill. It's a playlist that's very diverse. So
yes,
yeah.
If I listed off all the songs on my playlist, it really goes all over the place. And some of them are like specific remixes of songs. Like, I know this is weird. There's this like dance remix of Rihanna's Umbrella
Mm.
And it was the first time I'd ever heard the song, so I can't hear any other version of that song and think it's the legitimate one because I was used to the first one. But like I think that's the only Rihanna song I've ever listened to with any regularity. It's just like there are these one-off songs from artists that catch my ear, and they'll just be like the only thing I ever listened from them. And for whatever reason, that one was catchy in my brain, and I still like that one. Travis Gardner, Lords, is it weird to drive around with a cardboard cutout of Drunkle in the bed of my truck? Yes.
Yeah, that's weird.
Mata Winter, oh Lords, pineapple vanilla, pomegranate chocolate, or cinnamon pears soap? Can
you go through those again?
Pineapple vanilla as a combination, pomegranate chocolate, or cinnamon pears?
Probably the pomegranate chocolate.
Yeah, I was about to say of the three, I mean, the pineapple vanilla sounds like it'd be way too sweet smelling, like just a bit too much. And the cinnamon pears would be pungent on the other end of the spectrum. So I guess pomegranate. I mean, if I had to choose, I don't know. Christmas, Scribe, I love Hitchens and Sagan. However, I hate the Atheism Plus movement that was started with their names attached to it by people who weren't them. Atheism Plus SJW is what it means. Basically, I mean, it was social justice before there was the term social justice or wokeness. What was I going to say? Oh, part of the thing that I'm most sort of irritated about Atheism Plus is that for a long time during and after its presence, and it might still be around. I haven't heard about it in years. Using the term atheist amongst at least the community I was a part of at the time would refer to that rather than what it actually just means. So when at the time when it came up, like, oh, are you religious? I would just take to saying I'm a non-believer, because to say I was an atheist to some people would suggest that I was part of that quote unquote movement, like an atheist movement, which never made any sense to me. I think it was Bill Maher who said atheism is a religion like abstinence is a sex position. So I never really understood people trying to push atheism, but they tried to redefining words. Can you imagine that? People with social justice tendencies redefining words to their own ends. Yeah. I know. Shocking.
I used to feel that way about gamer for a while. Around the time that the Gamergate thing really started taking its stride. I was really just like, oh God, now they're going to make it fucking bad for me. And then eventually I'm just like, fuck that shit. I am a gamer, like period, point blank. I don't care what negative connotations people made up to go with it or whatever. That's what the fuck I am. So that's what I'm calling myself. Like, whatever. I don't give a fuck.
Frosted Glass, where was the Mortal Kombat theme in the trailer? It wasn't in the trailer. I don't know. Maybe there's some rights issues there or something, or maybe it'll appear during the credit sequence of the movie. I don't know. I wonder if they'll put the Orbital song in there that was in the credit sequence of the original movie. Actually, I think it was Orbital, pretty sure. But anyway, there's a great remix of that song. Look up Orbital and You Give Love a Bad Name. And it's a mashup of three songs. It's the Orbital song, You Give Love a Bad Name, and Heaven is a Place on Earth. It is an amazing mashup. Like, before mashups were a thing, this was the first mashup I ever heard, and I was blown away by it. So if you can find that remix, I think it's fairly easy to find. It's hilarious and great. Belinda Carlisle and Bon Jovi. Can you imagine those two things going together? They go together really well. Sean Uli, have you seen Richard Jewell? The movie? No. I know the story, though, because I sort of was alive during it. And bizarre story. But no, I haven't seen the movie. Have you seen that movie? Do you know who Richard Jewell is?
Not ringing a bell.
So Richard Jewell was a security guard at I want to say it was the 96 Olympics in, was it Georgia? God, or Atlanta. Sorry, the Atlanta Olympics. And he was a security guard there who spotted a suspicious package, a suspicious bag, and warned people away from it because it was suspicious. And amazingly enough, it went off because it was a bomb, and it killed a couple people. And almost immediately, because of the press, because of suspicion, they started looking at him as though he were the suspect, and his entire life was torn to shreds by the implication that he was guilty of planning the bomb. He was absolutely innocent. He actually saved God knows how many people's lives because he was so attentive to what was going on. But he was just, by the media, by federal agencies, implying things, raiding his home. He was an absolute victim of hysteria and media frenzy and bad investigative tactics. They eventually did identify who did do the bombing, Eric Rudolph, and it took years to find him because he was a survivalist and he just hid out in the woods forever. But Richard Jewell, his entire life was ruined. He was eventually exonerated, but there's not really any way to sort of take back the damage.
Yeah.
He got major lawsuit settlements from many, many institutions for what they did to him.
Oh, I would have sued every breathing reporter at that time.
Oh yeah, no, I don't know all the figures and everything, but yeah, he died. I can't remember how long ago it was, but he died of cancer or something several years ago. And just an absolute tragedy for the guy. And recently, Clint Eastwood directed a movie called Richard Jewell about it. I never saw it. So, because like I say, I already kind of knew the story and seen a dramatized version of it. Didn't really excite me or anything. Although I'll say the guy they got to play Richard Jewell was spot on. I mean, it almost reminded me sort of retroactively of the kind of casting they did for Mindhunters when they got the guy to play Kemper and the guy to play Charles Manson and all those guys that just were pitch perfect impersonators of those people. Anyway, let's see. Mike R says that was Bill Maher's. Yeah, I figured it was Bill Maher. I don't want credit where credit's due. I want to take credit for any quotes if I know who said them. Ostan says, Metallica's version over Thin Lizzy's version. Yeah, well, like I say, the Stick Death video in conjunction with Metallica's song, it's a really entertaining listen. So yeah, I like Metallica's version. It's the first one I ever heard. I've heard Thin Lizzy's version. It did. I don't know. I guess I was ruined by the Metallica version. I know purists probably hate Metallica, but I don't know what to tell you. It's just, sometimes first impressions last the longest. Let's see. JB, what's a good book you've read recently? A good book truth be told, I haven't read that many books lately. Unfortunately, I've been so distracted by everything else during the pandemic and everything. Golly, I mean, there's a couple most of the books that I've read have been true crime books. It was actually, well, speaking of which, it was a book actually called True Crime Addict. It was a guy who got obsessed with the Moira Murray case. I think is her name, Moira Murray. Moira Murray is a girl who vanished off the face of the earth. Very suspicious circumstances. Very, very famous case of someone just literally just disappearing. And he got obsessed with trying to figure out that case or investigate it or something. And it told a lot about the case. It also talked a lot about the author and sort of his obsessions about it and everything. It was an interesting book. I don't know if it's the best book I've read recently, but it's a good book. I'm trying to think of how many books I read recently. Anyway, Satsu, you read anything recently?
Nah.
Okay. That was good. Let's see. Sean Uli, have you ever heard Within Temptation? Symphonic Metal is great. I have heard of Within Temptation. I've liked the things that I've listened to. Also, was it 10 Steps from Hell or 13 Steps from Hell or something? Whatever those guys are that do the super epic, like cinematic music that are unattached to anything cinematic, but end up being like licensed for cinematic things. Those are always good for like, you play that kind of music in the background when you're running like a role-playing game. That's good music. Let's see. Debate Fly, Scribe Light, got noticed. Cool. You mean you? Yes. Hello, Debate Fly. You are noticed by Senpai or something. Ty Sparks, then Lizzie, hey Scribe, have you ever heard of Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds? No. You talking about like the story War of the Worlds, or the there's a song called War of the Worlds by is it Sensefield? Oh my god, am I remembering that name right? Anyway, I assume you mean the story, but the answer is no either way. So there's a musical version of War of the Worlds. I could see that working. I suddenly think back to The Simpsons and the musical version of Planet of the Apes. Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius. Oh, Dr. Zaius. Help me, Dr. Zaius. But with that... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can I share something before we end?
Yes, of course.
Here, let's all go out on this one today.
Okay.
Oh my god, that's loud. Holy crap.
Well, we can't hear the sound.
I know. You don't need to.
Okay. Is that Thanos and Batman? Oh! He kicked Thanos. Oh, no!
The caption says, that's for T'Challa, bitch.
Oh, wow!
Spider-Man. He's like, oh, shit.
Oh, Iron Man, no! That is amazing.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. Poor Thanos. Are they still kicking him? Oh, no. Why is Batman there?
I don't know why Batman is there. I have no idea what Batman is doing, but that was hilarious.
You see? Oh, well, at least the kid's got the right idea. Go after the bad guy. I don't know if you want to kick Thanos in the face, but that was great. But yes, guys, we are at the top of the hour and thus the end of the show.
Oh, man.
Let's see. Satsu, you doing anything after this?
Yeah, I'll play a little cooking simulator, I think, after this.
I don't have any plans for tomorrow specifically. Just a programming note. I will be out of town Saturday morning and afternoon. However, everything is planned. Fingers crossed that I'll be back in time to host the Lords of the Night on Saturday night, as is scheduled. If something strange occurs and I get delayed or held up, I will let Satsu know with as much heads up as I can. So, I'll repeat this again tomorrow night for any warnings, but keep an eye on Twitter on Saturday night, because if things go sideways, we might be over on Satsu's channel and I might show up late. But again, that's probably me just being overcautious. Otherwise, I may be doing something Sunday, live stream random thing, or maybe another Curriculum of Fear. I'm not quite sure yet. I've got a couple of irons in the fire, so we'll see. But elsewise, remember, guys, you can find us tomorrow night on Satsu 2 Senses channel at the regular time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for more Lords of the Night. But with that, chat, thank you so much for joining us. You guys really are the best audience in the whole world. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. Really, really do appreciate it. For those of you who are newcomers to my channel, thanks to Benjamin Boyce, welcome. I hope you enjoy my content. Take a look at my playlists, and if you dare, listen to the TED Excellence series. Now, go in knowing it's a minefield, a mind field with each episode. Everyone, again, thank you for joining us. Satsu, thank you for joining me as always.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, your lives make us sad, and we will see you tomorrow.
Night, guys.
And per usual, taking out my copy of Screw the Roses, Send Me the Thorns, the romance and sexual sorcery of sadomasochism. Today's secret word is strands.
Strando.
Strands. Strands is today's secret word.